This is a Marshall Enterprises presentation. Peace, family. Can we have a conversation, short conversation about mobilization? Very shortly, I'm going to play a clip featuring the president, the now president of the United States, and he's going to make a statement that we're going to discuss later on. Now, before I play that clip, let me also advise you or inform you that the government is responsible for protecting civilians and citizens. And there's a reason why I said citizens and civilians and not just citizens, okay? Definitely encourage you to do your research on the topics of citizen and civilian and see what you come up with. When you do a search, let's say in Google, I'm going into the very first item that comes up. And this is what it says. Citizen versus civilian, the separation of duties and responsibilities. Every person is a citizen is not a truth. Citizens are defenders and servants of the society, defending and serving from within and without the system. A civilian is a person who only wishes to have the claim of patriotism without the duties or responsibilities thereof. Both can claim American, but only one will have the duty of being so. This discussion is to determine what constitutes a citizen versus a civilian, how it can be addressed without trashing the equality issue, and how to make this a point that can travel into the future without becoming completely blurred and irrelevant. Difference between citizen and civilian. Key difference. The term citizen denotes a person who is generally accepted as a resident or subject of a country by its government. The term civilian, on the other hand, denotes any person who is not part of the military or any armed forces. The term citizen and civilian are often confused, primarily because the two terms sound similar and both are used to describe a person. However, the two terms are quite different in the manner of their usage. The term citizen denotes a person who is generally accepted as a resident or subject of a country by its government. The manner of either citizenship does not matter, whether it was native or naturalized, i.e. by birth or by moving to that country and becoming a citizen. Basically, a citizen is any person who is recognized as a resident by the government and that is protected by rights and liberties as provided by that government. Rights and liberties don't get provided by the government anyway. The term civilian, on the other hand, denotes any person who is not part of the military or any armed forces. Hence, it can be said that a civilian is just any regular person as long as they are not actively part of the armed forces. Then they can be determined as citizen, civilian. So there's more to that article. Please be free to actually continue it and do your own research on the two terms. And my closing point is public individuals pay taxes. Private individuals do not. So you begin to see the distinction between public and private and why they exist. Maybe you never, not even gonna say never, maybe you won't fully understand why they exist, but you may uncover or learn why they're important. It's a yin and it's a yang. It's a hot and a cold, etc. There's a public and a private. You know, there's a taxpayer, non-taxpayer. But this video is about mobilization. But I wanted to draw that conclusion. I draw that, emphasis on civilians and how and why the government is to protect them. But moving right along. Government has grown bigger than it was supposed to have grown. And we are more and more relying on government to do things that we are supposed to be doing for ourselves. The government is, again, the protector. They are to protect our rights. They are to protect our security. You know, they are the cop for the citizens, the civilians. It's not the other way around, whereas we take care of government. I'm definitely going to do my best to drive the point home of what is being said in my head and what needs to be projected to you. We are in a test right now. We are in, I don't want to say difficult times. I really don't. It's not difficult if you're prepared. There's a lot of people that are not prepared. And the reason they're not prepared is because they're asleep. They are comfortable with the status quo. When things are being done for you, you tend to stop doing things for yourself. Now, private individuals understand that we must do things for ourselves. We can't rely on government. The things that we rely on government for is for protection. And when we have grievances and we bring them forward, that they will be, the scales will be balanced. It doesn't have to lean in our favor. It shouldn't lean against us. Oftentimes it appears that way. But if we're not doing our part, if we're not standing on our square, then we're not standing where we need to stand, and that's why the scales is unbalanced. If you are a United States citizen, you are property thereof. So if things are just not working out for you, it's because of your status and your standing. Correct your status and your standing, you correct your situation. So anyway, watch this clip.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people and the private sector and the private sector and the private sector.
What he just said was that he is garnering the full power of the federal government and the private sector. There's a public and there's a private. And if you are not fully aware of the boundaries of public and the boundaries of private, you don't understand what he said, and you don't really understand what's going on around you. If you have not gotten a call, or if you have not reached out privately to your network prior to this pandemic, prior to any emergency, and mobilize, then chances are you're not part of and you're not privy to certain information. Private people do private things. We don't wait until an emergency breaks out to then have strategic meetings or to go look for resources. We take care of shit prior, and we have the necessary stuff just in case. Private people do private things. It's a little disheartening, but sadly, I have to harden my heart because when the shit hits the fan, those on the private side that have done what they needed to do to correct their status, to solidify their standing on their square, those are the people that are priority, because United States citizens will be taken care of by their government. And if they're not taken care of by their government, it's because the government is off track. The government is going to take care of its own interests and then you. So we in the private don't rely on the government. We work with the government. We, at times, assist the government. What are you saying? Are you an agent? That gets tossed around a lot, but people don't even know what the hell they're talking about, or they don't even understand what they're saying when they say that. But here's the short version. When a natural disaster happens, let's use Katrina, for example, and a tower went down, or 911, when the World Trade Center went down. That's one of the largest buildings in this area, and that I can't get the name of the piece at the top, but it's an antenna. It does dual purpose. It resists or it takes the blow from the lightning, and it also is a communicating device. There's also other, communicating devices on top of that building, because it's so high, it can reach a wide area. So anyway, when the building came down, communications went down. So when communications is down, your cell phone won't work. Television stations won't play properly. So, which is why they switched to digital, but it's another conversation for another time. But in the event of times like these, where if we get cyber attacked, if we get, if things go down, there has to be another means of communication. It has to be seamless. So private institutions, organizations have this information or have this communication capabilities. So they relied on the private sector to help with ambulance and EMS and police department communications. So that's what I'm talking about when I say we work with government. Government relies on us, but they also afford us protection. So it's not so much that we're, by the way, some children, we're not snitches. We understand that government and the private citizen needs one another to a degree. We're not looking for services. We're not looking for benefits from them. If you consider protection a benefit or a service, so be it. But that is what government was established for, along with other things. But they've gotten bigger than they needed. They've expounded their bridges. They've become overweight. They need to be trimmed down a little something. And will that ever happen? We can't sit back and we cannot judge or imagine the possibilities. We still have to do what we need to do to move forward. So mobilization, communication, medication, utilities, essential things. When an emergency breaks out, we have these things. We have access to these things. Case in point, there's a shortage of masks. There's a shortage of cleaning solutions, etc. That's a public issue. It's a small degree private issue, because what we accumulate in the private is for our networks of individuals. We have to maintain our survival as well. I may be wandering, I may be going all over the place, but I'm not sure if I made the point earlier in the video that if you have not handled your business and you're not part of a private network, a private group, and the shit hits the fan, That private group is set up to make sure that its members have the bare necessities and essentials. Anyone outside of that circle is extra and unaccounted for, because the resources that we have is for an extended period, albeit 6 months to a year. The more people you add to that mix, the less time or the less resources we have amongst our group. So respectfully, if you ask to be a part in an emergency situation, it would be taken on a case-by-case and a need-by-need basis. You may have something that would benefit us in the private, and we may say, yes, listen, give them some toilet tissue, give them some soap, give them something, and in return, they would give us something. It is in these times that we have to rely on our network, but we have to sometimes rely outside of the network. But do not wait until an emergency to get prepared. Do not wait until an emergency to try to become or be a part of something. The government's responsibility is to protect the civilians and the citizens. Think about the security guard in CVS or let's say Target that walks around the store helping people find stuff on the shelves. Shouldn't you be at the door? Not so much checking bags, but shouldn't you be at the door making sure, we're safe? Why are you in the aisles helping people? That's what the sales persons do. So government is doing the same thing. Why is the government telling you need to take a vaccine? Oh, you look kind of sick, you need to take this pill. You need to get out of my business. So the government is encroaching on the private when they do certain things like that. That makes sense? Okay. The same with that security guard that's in the aisles. Go back to the front where you're supposed to be, protecting the store and the things within the store. Government needs to do the same. So again, this is about mobilization. Let's get back on track. If you have not been contacted, or if you have not gotten with your group to make sure the resources are intact, that I guess you could say the plans are in place. How do you communicate with your network? Where are the resources stored? Who has access? Should it be in somebody's garage, somebody's basement, a 24-hour storage room? Where are these things? Water, batteries, flashlights, matches, blankets, all these different things is critical for survival. And you do not want to wait until an emergency breaks out for you to then try to gather the stuff. Look at what's happening in the supermarkets. Bare shelves everywhere. I walked into a supermarket, and mind you, I'm a salad guy. I walk in, I got my red leaf, cucumbers, everything is pickles, cucumbers, everything, tomatoes, everything is there. They didn't run and grab up all the vegetables. All the chicken is gone, all the pork chops, all the potato chips, the water, the soda, all of that stuff that really won't sustain life for extended amount of time. Or you don't want, in times like these, you don't want a heavy meal that you got to take a nap after you eat. You want something that's going to provide you with nourishment, so in the event that you have to move and get from location to location, it's not holding you down. But this conversation for private, what group are you with? Is your group communicating? Is your group mobilizing? What's going on? No one is talking about this. No one's discussing these things. Everybody is nervous and waiting for someone to speak about these things or someone to take the lead. What are you doing? Are you mobilizing? Do you know how to mobilize? Do you know what to mobilize with? It's Bud Brownsville. I've said enough. See you in the next one.